Okay, and welcome back to another Telltale video. I'm Greg,
I'm Emily.
and this is talking about our next read in reading everything by Robert A. Heinlein that we can get our hands on. And this story is Let There Be Light, which was published not in Astounding.
I don't like change.
Apparently this got rejected by Campbell, so he
Oh,
published
man.
it. And he published it under a pseudonym of Lyle Monroe
Oh.
in Super Science Stories. There needs to be
SSS.
in May of 1940.
I love a good alliteration. It's good stuff.
So that was kind of a short-lived story, kind of a short-lived magazine
Okay.
that got going in the late 1930s and lasted, I think, till we got into the war, and that caused shortages, and a lot of magazines went under at that time.
Yeah.
So Heinlein published there as Lyle Monroe. First time he used a pseudonym, I believe. And I have no clue why he felt he needed to use a pseudonym, because this story is actually part of what he called his future history series. This story didn't make it into the Paths Through Tomorrow. I have it in a book called Off the Main Sequence.
Okay.
So it's off the main sequence of the future history, but it's still part of the future history.
Interesting.
And so, do you want to do the synopsis? Or
Sure.
should I? Okay, go ahead.
Sure. So, this guy does scientific experiments funded by his father, who owns a factory. And he's brilliant. But he gets a letter from a doctor who is a doctor of biology, and he is a doctor of, what was it again? Was it engineering or like
I think so.
doctorate? Yeah, a doctorate in engineering, I think, or something like that, or
more
probably
physical.
a lot of added on specifications to that title. But so this doctor sends him a letter, and he's really indignant about it. He's like, "How dare you come and just tell me you're coming to visit?"
That was actually a funny part, because this is a comedy story.
Yes, it is very funny.
When Heinlein lists the list of acronyms
Yeah.
on the end of his name, he includes things like CIA and NRA.
Yeah, and
Just
ABC.
Totally makes fun of it.
Yeah, like
That was
just is
great.
basically kind of roasting himself. It's great. But so yeah, he goes out to the bar, kind of cools off, gets rejected by a chick, comes back to his lab / apartment, because he practically lives there. And the doctor comes in, but he was not expecting this doctor of biology to be a female. So there's a little bit of like flirting, sexual tension going on. And of course, because of the time this is written in, there's some language where they're calling each other doll and daddy and weird things like that, which today have far different, less innocent connotations than it did back then.
Yeah, basically
yeah.
they were flirting. with
They
one
were
another.
flirting the whole time. But during their, she comes to him asking for him to explain, or help her explain, what happens to cause lightning bugs or fireflies to have glowing butts. And so they're kind of going through this process and kind of come up with a man-made way of having this happen. So but as they're going through the experiment, his father, who owns the factory that they have the lab in, comes to him and says, "We are literally getting nickeled and dimed to death by the energy companies. Like, it's just ridiculous to keep the lights on, to keep the machines going, and I can't at the same time fund your lab experiments. So I'm at the point where I think I'm just going to have to fully shut down." And so as they're going through, as he realizes this with his dad, he and this biologist realize, what if we reversed what we just did to cause this cool light thing and actually made energy that could just be utilized for the factory, so he wouldn't have to pay these energy companies. And they successfully figure out how to do it. But then they start getting, like, basically mob boss intimidated by the energy companies once they catch wind that that's what he's done and that's what he's trying to do. So they're sitting there trying to figure out how they can basically get patents and things done without getting run over by a car or shot or all these other, intimidation methods and potential murder, or manslaughter things that could get covered up by these really powerful, really rich corporations. And the biologist has the idea of, what if you just give it away? What are they going to do? Mm-hmm. Like, what if you literally just mass publicize this? Mm-hmm. And then, like, all you have to do is produce the product that facilitates the process at a really inexpensive, like 10 cents a piece thing. The demand is going to be so big for this, you'll be a millionaire very quickly. And these companies can't do jack to you.
Yeah.
Because now it's public information.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really fuck big corporations in your face kind of thing, which might be actually why he was having such a hard time getting it published. It could be during a time when the Red Scare was kind of starting, or like we have this fear.
No, I don't think that was
fear of communism in America. I don't know.
1940, a lot of science fiction writers were actually going to, not necessarily joining the Communist Party, but mm-hmm. going to the meetings to find out more about it, mm-hmm. because there were a lot of intellectuals at that time that still thought that maybe there was something to communism that would make things better. Mm-hmm. So they checked it out.
Yeah.
And in the 1950s, of course, they were called in front of the government to explain why they went to a communist meeting.
Yes, and that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, I'm wondering if that's why he started putting things under pseudonyms, because he was interested, but it was still so controversial. And of course, a decade later, it's still it's even more controversial than it was probably during his time. Mm-hmm. But this idea that why don't we take something, even though we're a capitalist construct, why don't we just make it public information? Mm-hmm. Instead of acting like we need to hold on to this and keep people from having it.
Yeah. But, well, it's a funny story, but there's a number of things that are actually wrong with this. Mm-hmm. First of all, the Doctor Who solution of let's just reverse the polarity and it'll work, That's
not science.
If you have a process that produces light from some chemical process, no, you can't reverse it to make the light produce electricity.
Yeah.
Not efficiently.
That doesn't
anyway.
work. It was a fun concept, though.
And second, just making something public. I mean, I believe nuclear fusion is pretty public, mm-hmm. but the average person still can't just go and start their own nuclear generator.
Yeah.
Heavily controlled by the government. You would
mm-hmm.
have FBI agents on your front lawn if you started building a nuclear reactor in your backyard.
I need to go turn off something in my backyard.
Yeah,
no.
if you even contacted somebody to try and purchase your U-235, you're going to get...
You're going to have a lot of investigations.
But
rocket fuel in general, they're worried about.
But and then, well, there's that whole relationship that just doesn't work to today's eyes. Heinlein was trying to be funny.
Yeah, and it was funny, but it was also funny that it was kind of absurd.
Yeah.
And that it was more absurd humor to me than it actually was, like,
yeah.
flirty,
in
sassy.
1940, it would have been a lot funnier than it is today.
Yes.
And you mentioned you thought that the story was very sexist, but, I mean, yes, but on the other hand...
During that time, that was totally normal.
But on the other hand, this woman was a successful biologist who just discovered a whole new scientific process.
Yes.
Which went against the normal political thinking of 1940 that women
which is
should
why
stay
he
in the
made
home.
which was why he made the assumption that this doctor was male, because it was common. And
that was a common
while
assumption.
it was not sexist necessarily in theme, the language is really what I should specify so people know. But it also has that very so I really enjoyed the TV show Gilmore Girls, and it is really not something I actually enjoy. Like, it's not a typical... I don't like those kind of shows, typically.
Okay.
Those slice-of-life drama comedy things.
I've never seen it. So
Yeah, but it has really snappy, witty, sarcastic dialogue. And that's why I enjoyed it, because the dialogue and situations were so cleverly done. And that's what I enjoyed about this, is their dialogue is basically poking fun at each other, even though they're both super intelligent and, like, really big deals in their field and equals. But they're both equally, like, playing at each other's, like, insecurities and flirting and that kind of thing, which I appreciated, despite the fact that they're using sexist language. It's very funny, because it's actually reciprocated. It's quite equal when you think about it.
Yeah.
So, I liked it, though, because of that witty, funny dialogue, poking fun at each other kind of stuff.
Yeah. For me, it was coming across kind of snarky, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're both super intelligent people. What super intelligent person do you know who isn't a little snarky? I mean, Stephen Hawking was the biggest snark ever.
Yeah, well...
He was sassy.
He was also very... Words are hard.
It's okay. It's Sunday.
He was very self-centered.
Yes.
So he treated his wife like crap.
Yeah. I think there is an ego, though. To people who are super intelligent, and when they know they're intelligent, there is an ego there, which is why I like the dialogue, because I think they were both poking fun at each other, knowing full well that they were both big deals.
But in the context of this story in 1940, that was flirting.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of how my husband and I flirt, is by poking fun at each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. And it was quite... I liked it because the dialogue was snappy and funny and sarcastic and all the things. And
so a lot of science fiction history books talk about this story because it essentially is talking about the invention of solar power in 1940.
Yep, before it was even a thing.
Yeah, and I think what Heinlein was trying to really get to in this story, because he was extremely influenced by H.G. Wells, so he had a point to what he was talking about in most of his stories. And what he was trying to get to with the whole corporate thing is the reality, because it's history that Tucker was forced out of business by GM and Ford and Chrysler. Yeah. And they also forced out Studebaker, Hudson, trying to remember all the others. Lots of other smaller car companies that existed yet in the late 40s, early 50s. The big three did a pricing thing that the smaller companies couldn't possibly compete with to force them out of business. And they all did. They all disappeared. Actually, well, some of them joined together to become American Motors, which lingered until the 1980s when Chrysler finally bought it out before it went under. And that was very close to me in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I had an uncle who drove truck delivering American Motors cars all over the nation.
Interesting.
And a couple of the club members at the yacht club where I worked at American Motors. And
that's very cool.
So I was kind of close to that company, and sorry to see it go. So what Heinlein is talking about here, the corporate espionage that goes on, it really did go on.
Yes.
I don't know if it's happening today, but in 1940, this kind of thing was being done. They were forcing people who had really good ideas out of business, or would buy them out with a big single-time down payment, and then take that idea and bury it in the files where it never saw light of day, because it would cut into their bottom line if it ever got out there.
Yes, and we're dealing too, like, if it's that bad then, and probably as bad now, if not worse, or maybe a little more, I don't know, a little more technological, who knows. But how much worse was it before monopolies were illegal? That's what I like to think about.
Well, yeah, monopolies and...
before monopolies were even illegal, like, it's got to be way worse than this.
Oh, yeah, that was... 1800s is when they passed the act against monopolies in the United States.
Must have been like anarchy back then. It's crazy.
very bad working conditions. It's why unions form.
Oh, absolutely.
Because people try to stand up for themselves.
Yeah, but historically speaking, like if the corporate side of this, we're not even talking about the employee side. We're just talking about the corporate side of it is this bad. It's got to be like freaking gangs of New York up in there before monopolies were illegal. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting though to see someone have this perspective, because I feel like it speaks too much, I think, to how especially my generation feels about corporate America today.
Yeah.
Especially. Like, we don't feel like they care about people. They care about making money.
Well, yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what you do. You're just going to get bulldozed over by corporate America.
Yep.
But yeah.
So definitely, you know, I've some of Heinlein's stories before this, I wasn't quite sure really fit with his overall libertarian views, and so I was thinking maybe he wasn't really libertarian yet. But this story, there's nothing about it that isn't libertarian philosophy. It's totally in line, in sync with that political ideal.
So yeah, I liked this story though. I thought it was funny and enjoyable.
I liked it. I didn't think it was great,
No.
but I thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it's not high literature. It's not like
No.
top tail level, but I thought it's a good comedy. Have we even added a comedy yet to our top tales?
Yeah, Princess Bride.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Princess Bride is
And
on there.
I'm pretty sure there are a couple others, but they're not rolling into my mind right now because of the whole Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Oh gosh. No. What is that? It wasn't the one with Twill in it. Martians of Mars.
Martian Odyssey.
A Martian Odyssey. Yeah, that's
Wasn't
kind
really
of
a comedy, but did have light
kind of.
moments.
Okay. All right. Anyway. Yeah, Let There Be Light is fun.
We had some Philip K. Dick that was
Oh
pure
yeah, that's
comedy.
right. That's right. We did have that.
And we got to get back to reading him.
Yep, we'll get back to it. It'll happen. Stay
Okay.
tuned for more Philip K. Dick.
So
But yeah.
this, if you're looking for Heinlein's best, this isn't quite there. But the person who should read this story is somebody who likes the older science fiction, likes the 1940s science fiction, is interested in reading more than just Heinlein's top stories, wants to dig a little deeper. This is a good story to give a chance.
It reflects a lot of the dialogue of noir films. That's a good way of putting it. So if you are a person who enjoys noir style writing, this is for a sci-fi, this is very similar, which is why I like the snappy comedy dialogue and like
Kinda
sarcasm
like the
and
Humphrey Bogart.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Thin Man.
I think that's why I like it so much. Is it just clicked in my brain. I'm like, it's very noir feeling in a lot of regards.
And that's an interesting comment, because if you look at science fiction of the 1940s, there's a lot of stories that either use the exact title or a play on a title from a movie that was popular at the time.
Yep. And Let There Be Light is
yeah,
like
that's,
Genesis. That's in the Bible.
Mhm.
But yeah, very funny.
But I do think cinema was very strongly influencing the science fiction of the 1940s.
That would not surprise me at all, because this sounded like something Dick Tracy on steroids and hormones would have been like, honestly.
Yeah, or some of the, not that Humphrey Bogart
Yeah.
movies were funny, but there were moments where he did, crack sarcastic jokes
It's like
in the characters. And
dead men don't wear plaid, science fiction. Saoirse, quit clawing the carpet. We are doing a video. Thank you.
yeah, really.
I mean,
Sound
not
like
the carpet, the
popcorn to
couch.
the microphone.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Making
Not
me
now.
hungry.
Wait until we're done. Then you can destroy the furniture. But I
Your
really gotta
cats are
have...
probably thinking, boy, why does she invite this guy over if he's just going to spoil everything?
Saoirse. Come here. All right. The kitty is getting rowdy.
Okay.
Sassy girl.
That's
Anything
all I
else?
got to say.
Yeah, that's all I had to say, too.
All right. So check it out and like us, subscribe to us, come back for more Robert Heinlein. We're going to jump because we've already reviewed the next story, The Roads Must Roll.
Which
Great
is a goodie.
story, top tale.
Yes.
But we've already done it, so we're going to move on then to Coventry. another
I'm
of his.
intrigued.
It's another of his future history stories, but it won't be comedy.
Okay. I'm excited. Well, thank you again for
Excellent.
joining us, guys, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.